Welcome back to the second part of what makes real estate syndication have insanely high returns. My name is Perry Zhang, and I'm the founder and CEO of Cashflow Marketplace. By the way, if you missed the part one of this video, here is the link right there. You can click on that. I want to bring to folks the concept about Blackstone and BlackRock. So BlackRock is the largest asset manager. It manages about $10 trillion of assets. It's usually taking people's retirement funds, 401k. It's like Fidelity. Its return is like 6 to 8%. Pretty good, but not that great. The Blackstone is the world's largest investment firm. It manages $850 billion of real estate. It's basically the world's largest syndicator, right? 850 billion sounds a lot, but it's actually 1/10 as much as BlackRock. The mnemonic device, by the way, is that Blackstone is small, nimble, is small, like pebbles. You can throw it really far. And BlackRock is large, immovable, and just steady. The BlackRock gives about 6 to 8% annualized return. Blackstone gives a 20 to 30% annualized return. That's the difference. Doesn't sound that much more impressive, but here is a good exercise for the audience to do. If you take $1 and that's generating 6% annualized return, 30 years later, that $1 turns into $6. It's actually 5.7 if you do the math. If you take the same $1 and that's generating 30% annualized return, 30 years later, that $1 becomes $2,600. So even though 30% return is like 5x more than the 6% return, it generates a substantial, almost 500x difference in the course of 30 years. So what that means is that if you have 100K that's generating 6% annualized return, which is actually all your retirement funds. So this is not a theoretical discussion. This is your retirement fund. That if I have 100K in your 401k, 30 years later, it's going to 6x your money. If you put the same 100K in a Blackstone-like fund that's generating 30%, 30 years later, that 100K turns into $260 million. Think about that for a second. Basically you can become a billionaire by just investing, a couple $100,000. So 30% is a lot. 30% is unicorn, mythical status. Nobody actually could achieve 30% annualized for the course of all 30 years. That's just not possible. So just keep that in mind that 30% is a huge deal, right? So then the question is, why won't anyone invest in Blackstone instead of BlackRock? Well, the answer is absolutely they should. It's actually risk adjusted, it's way higher returns, and it's questionable whether it has actually more risk. I will argue that the BlackRock actually has more risk. The reason that people cannot invest in them is that the minimum investment is $25 million to Blackstone. $25 million. And you have to hold that money for 3 to 5 years, cannot take it out. And so, for better or for worse, this is why the rich gets richer. It's really, really unfair. But think about from Blackstone's perspective. In order to achieve 20 to 30% annualized return, it needs what's called alpha. Alpha is basically edge. And to create edge, it needs a team of highly competent, highly analytical, highly interpersonal people to go out and hunt deals, be able to negotiate, and be able to manage it well. And for them to negotiate, it's very important they know where the monies come from. It's important for them to know that this money is in their bank for at least 3 to 5 years. So that helps them with their negotiating and decision process, right? That's why it's important that this money gets locked up for 3 to 5 years. And also they need a lot of money to make these decisions. And so in order to achieve higher than average returns, it needs work. And work requires certainty of liquidity from the asset manager's perspective. So that's why Blackstone can achieve such high returns. But there are only so many investments in the world that actually can get 30% annualized return. So they can only take so much of people's money before they're like, okay, I cannot find any more investment opportunities they have. It's pretty easy to generate 6% return. You just throw things into anything, like the lender may get 6% return. Lower return is more common, but if you want to achieve that kind of stratospheric returns, it requires ingenuity and work. And they have to achieve it in a way without other people finding out. And then once people find out, they have to find out new instruments too and new opportunities. So it's not that easy at all. So why am I saying? What is real estate syndication then? Well, real estate syndication is basically a mini Blackstone. Blackstone is the world's largest syndicator. Syndication It's just a smaller form of Blackstone that may not be as good as Blackstone, may not be as consistent as Blackstone, but its minimum investment is 25,000 instead of 25 million. So people complain sometimes that syndication has 25,000 minimum investment and that no. But think about it. Imagine you have a world that you have low barrier of entry, that you can start with $5, high liquidity, that you can withdraw money at any time, and a high return, like 30% return. Well, guess what? The next day, the world is flooding towards that product. And as a result, they can offer lower returns. It's supply and demand. So that world, with all these three things, attributes being true, it just doesn't exist. That's too good to be true of a world. If you're a software engineer and if you're like from the tech, I think of this as the cap theorem of real estate investing, is that it's really hard to have all three things: low barrier of entry, high liquidity, and high returns. You have to pick two or even one out of the three. And what I believe is the liquidity is the one that usually is the one should drop. Because as long as you have a good income that you can live off with and you have a side pile of money, that should be your investment money. That should not interfere with your day-to-day lifestyle. That's the money that you set aside for 3 to 5 years and let the best operators do their job. Most of us could not get into Blackstone, but I do think that a lot of us could get into a real estate syndication. And there's a reason that they have high returns, because it's playing rich person's game. But compared to the really wealthy people, it's actually a lower barrier of entry. So there you have it. I think that real estate syndication is intrinsically good, and it's a mini Blackstone. That's it.